Hello, welcome everybody. My name is Jorie Walters from the Kankakee County Museum. I am the research coordinator and I am the host of Where Are We Wednesday? This farm is part of the Bourbonnais Township Park District, actually their headquarters, but this farm has been here since about the 1830s, founded by Thomas Durham. Well, if you notice, you can hear all the sounds out here of the road. This is Kennedy Drive, and as busy as it is today, it actually was busy back in the day. This was a major corridor for getting livestock up to Chicago to the stockyards. And actually they would have schooners of different families and people moving cattle and moving hogs up the path here. And sometimes they would stay at the Perry farm and the Durhams would host them for the evening. All right, so today I'm going to talk about the barn. I'm going to talk about the horse barn. This was built relatively new after they settled here, probably around the late 1830s, 1840s. Back in the day, horses were extremely important because this was their form of transportation. They needed horses to get around, they needed them to hook up the carriages to, and for individual riding. They also used them when they worked in the fields. They also used oxen when they worked in the fields to carry the machinery. Nowadays, much easier. We have transportation and we have tractors in the fields. So I'm going to take you inside the barn to give you a little close-up look at what it was like in a very, very old barn back in the day. Not much has changed in here. We have the different stalls and all of this equipment may not be as old as the beginning of Perry Farm, but certainly some of it, as you can see, has not been used in quite a long time. Now, we think of horses today as something, animals that are very beautiful. People love to ride them. People love to jump with them and do horse racing with them. But in history, horses were just extremely part of every farm family's life because it was the form of transportation and they had to take care of their horses like you would take care of your car. You have to put gas in it and you have to keep it running and keep the motor going, change the oil. With the horses, you had to do the grooming, you had to do its shoes, you had to do the feeding and cleaning, and it was definitely something that every member of the family was involved in keeping the animals, actually all of the animals, to keep them fed and to keep them groomed and to keep them make sure they had water. Very, very important part of family for every member of the family, no matter how little or how old. The horses were definitely something very, very important. Another really important aspect of a pioneer family farm would have been the garden. Now I'm estimating, I'm not sure, but I'm estimating it probably would have been in this area here. In the vegetable garden, they had lots of vegetables. They had probably tomatoes and lettuce and probably some aisles of corn. What was really important about a garden is that they had to do all of their vegetables and make sure they had enough vegetables to last them for the whole winter. And then they would store them in a cool place, probably like in a fruit cellar. Now, everybody on the farm helped with that, but probably mostly the ladies and the children. But the really big test would be, how do you keep all of the creatures out of your garden? How do you keep the bunnies and the squirrels, etc., out of your garden so that you had enough food to last you? Well, I'm not sure, but they would have had to do it to make sure that they had enough food. Now, an average pioneer family farm family would have been about 8 kids to 10 kids, 12 kids, something in that range. A lot of times they had more children. A lot of times the children did not mature to adulthood, and a lot of times the children would die in small age, at a younger age because of disease. But still, they had to make sure they had enough food. And even the young kids would help mom pick the vegetables or maybe pull the weeds. But every member of the family would have a chore to do. So that would be probably in this area. And then where we have the setup for the animals today with the barn, that's probably where they would have had the animals outside as well. And now we're going to go to the 3-bay barn, but there is another little building here. We'll show it to you. It's a little white building, and that was a milking station. The Perry farm in later years did have a dairy business, so they would milk cows in this little building here. This little structure, many people probably wonder, what is it and why is it in the middle of the yard? Well, this was their well. This was their source of water. The Durham Perrys were very, very lucky to have a source of water so close to the house. Now, their property expanded a long ways, and a source of water in the middle of their property would have been a little bit difficult, because you needed the water to be in the house for cooking and cleaning. You needed the water for watering the vegetables. You needed the water for the animals. So bringing in buckets of water would have been a chore that everybody did. That would have been very, you needed a lot of muscle to do it. So they were very lucky to have it so close to the house. Now, many families, early families, would have had to build a home next to a river or a creek in order to get water. And like I said, if they had water on their property and it was farther away, it would have been a hassle to be able to get the buckets of water to bring in the home. You don't really realize how much you use water every day, because the indoor plumbing, it's so convenient. But when you had to bring in the buckets for different things, you realize that it was a very valuable source, and you were lucky to have it. We're now in the 3-bay barn, and this barn was very important because it had several different purposes. The hay loft was one very important aspect. They needed to grow the hay for the animals, and you can see how high it is up there. Hay lofts were very, very high. So this barn was very important because it had several purposes. One purpose was the floor. It was the threshing floor, where they would take the wheat and they would thresh it and get all the seeds out of it. They would do it by hand. Today they have machines that do that. So that was something that was very important. Another aspect was the hay loft. Now, all big barns, huge barns, will have hay lofts. And the hay was very important for the animals. And you can see there is a ladder up there. And they also would have something like a big fork, so to speak, to get it up and to get it over. And then also in the barn, they would have probably cattle in here. And I believe there is another addition on the back of it, you can't see it from here, that also would have storage for the animals. Barns were especially important in the pioneer days, and actually all farms to this day, barns are extremely important buildings that are very iconic. You can see them everywhere in the countryside, but especially for a pioneer family back in the day, they spent a lot of time in the barn.